Hi everyone. I often hear people saying they've tried bribing or distracting their dog when the dog was doing something they didn't want them to do, and they tend to follow that up by saying that it didn't work. So, in this little series of videos, I want to take a look at bribery, at distraction, and also at luring, and have a look at do they work, what they might mean for your dog, and whether you should be doing this at all. So in this first video, let's take a look at bribery. First of all, what do we mean by bribery? The definition of bribery is offering something valuable to another in order to persuade them to do something you want them to do. For the person or dog being bribed, it's all going to be about weighing up how desirable the thing you're offering is versus how desirable the activity is. So if you say to me, would you wash my car? And I say, what do I get for it? Then my answer is going to depend on how valuable I consider your offering. So if you say, I'll make you a cup of tea if you wash the car, I'm probably going to say no, because to me, that's not a very valuable deal. But if you say, I'll take you out for dinner if you wash my car, then I might consider that a fair exchange. The payment for the activity needs to warrant the effort I have to put in order to do it. When it comes to dogs, we're likely to be trying to bribe them to do something they would rather not do. So you might say, if you jump into the car, you can have this piece of sausage. That might be fine if you're trying to teach them to jump into the car and they're actually okay at being in the car. It might end up being a little game that you play, something that they expect you to do. But what if they don't want to get into the car because they're scared of being in the car or because being in the car hurts them? In those situations, bribing them in, having that exchange, might not be appropriate for the dog's welfare. In some situations, it might be unavoidable. Perhaps you have to get them in the car in order to get them to the vet, so the need becomes greater. But should we really be bribing them on a regular basis just because we feel they should do something and we think they should do it rather than they want to do it? And should we be doing this rather than addressing the reasons that they don't like doing that activity? So if we don't address the reasons behind their resistance, we could end up persuading them to do something that is actually very negative for them, and thus create conflict between doing something they're afraid of or missing out on that treat. So we only really want to consider bribing the dog if it is going to be an acceptable compromise for them, if it's a trade that they agree to, or perhaps it's a little game you play because that's how you taught them to do something in the first place. So I might use this to help a dog learn to go to their bed. You could drop treats onto the bed and then praise them when they go over, or perhaps provide more treats when they go over, especially if they lay down. And then what they learn is when she drops treats in the bed, it's time for me to go to bed. We don't need to add a cue. We don't need to do more than that. That's just a little game we play. And I end up with the dog in their bed. Sometimes bribing the dog is the better option if you need to get something done and they would rather it wasn't done, because it can help to take their mind off it. So we're starting to verge a little bit onto distraction here. So an example of this might be getting the dog to stand still to have their nails clipped. Ideally, we're going to work with them in a cooperative manner so they're happy to have the procedure done. But what if it needs doing now and we can't wait for weeks or even months until that cooperative care is put in place? They might not like having it done, but it's necessary. There are things for all of us that we have to do. They're necessary, but we don't enjoy them. And it's actually quite hard to explain that to a dog. You know, we will grit our teeth and bear it, but we can't always persuade them to do that because they can't understand. So in the case of that nail clipping, perhaps it's better to bribe them by feeding them chicken or offering cuddles so they stay still, and it can be done very quickly, because that means that they don't get even more frightened by making it a drawn out and distressing experience for them. So in that situation, it is the lesser of the two evils. But why bribery may be needed at times, do be aware of the potential to increase your dog's anxiety through the internal conflict it can create. Consider the pros and cons of using bribery in that individual situation. Consider the effect it might have on your dog, how it's going to affect them emotionally, and also how it's going to affect your relationship with your dog in the future. So if you do need to use bribery, beware that it is the right time to use it and use it sparingly when your options are limited. And the potential consequences of using that bribery mean it is actually safer as the option for your dog. In the next part, we're going to take a look at distraction. So I'll be back again with that soon for you. Bye for now. Look out for new videos every Monday, and why not subscribe so you don't miss out?